Turn on the news or just scroll through your social media feed, and it's really easy to feel like crime in America is just out of control. It's this anxiety that a lot of us feel. But what's the real story? What do the actual numbers say? Today, we're going to peel back the headlines and take a hard look at the data behind the national conversation. So let's just ask the question straight up. Is crime in America actually getting worse? Is the story we're all telling ourselves matching up with reality? Well, the answer might really surprise you. Take a look at this number, -21%. What is that? Well, that was the drop in reported homicides in major U.S. cities in just 1 year, between 2024 and 2025. I mean, that's not a small change. That is a massive, almost unheard of drop. Yeah, a number that big, it deserves a much closer look. This isn't just some minor blip on a chart. We could be looking at a truly historic shift in one of the most serious crimes we track. So where are we getting all this? The data we're looking at comes from this really comprehensive year-end update by the Council on Criminal Justice, or CCJ for short. They looked at crime stats from 40 big American cities to figure out what's really going on. The sheer scale of this is it's staggering. The CCJ says that if this trend holds up across the whole country, it would be the lowest homicide rate ever recorded. And it would be the single largest one-year drop on record. Just let that sink in for a second. The biggest drop in over 100 years. And look, this isn't just some one-off thing from 2025. The trend is actually continuing into 2026. The latest data we have shows that the first quarter of the year had the lowest number of shooting deaths in 12 years. But here's the thing. This story isn't just about homicides. The data shows the decline is actually much broader than that, spreading across a lot of other major crime categories too. The breadth of this decline is what's so wild. According to the CCJ, in just that 1 year, robberies fell 23%, gun assaults dropped 22%, and carjackings, a crime that creates so much fear, absolutely plummeted by a staggering 43%. And it's the exact same story with property crime. After years of going up, motor vehicle thefts finally reversed course, dropping 27%. Burglaries, larcenies, even general shoplifting, all of them are down by double-digit percentages. So out of the 13 major offense categories that the CCJ was tracking, 11 of them showed a decline. But there was one pretty notable exception: reported drug offenses. They actually went up by 7%. And while that general shoplifting number is down, that figure actually hides a much more complex and frankly troubling story. There's a very specific kind of theft that is on the rise, and it's becoming a huge problem for everyone from retailers to law enforcement. Okay, so it's really important we get this distinction right. We are not talking about some individual pocketing an item for themselves. We're talking about organized retail crime, or ORC. This is a whole different beast. We're talking sophisticated criminal enterprises with coordinated crews stealing massive amounts of merchandise to resell it for profit. And the financial impact? It is enormous. In 2022, total retail losses hit $112 billion, and organized retail crime is a huge and growing part of that. And honestly, it's not just about the money. What's even more alarming is the rise in violence. That same report found a 17% increase in threats or acts of violence against employees during these incidents. So no, this is not a victimless crime. And get this isn't just a domestic issue, it's a global problem. A full 2/3 of retailers reported that transnational criminal organizations were involved. These are networks that operate across borders, which makes them incredibly hard to stop. Okay, so we've seen this broad national picture of declining crime. But I know what some of you are probably thinking, that's not what it feels like where I live. And you know what? That's a totally fair point. Let's talk about that gap between the national trend and what people are seeing in their own communities. This table, which is based on recent FBI data, shows that cities like Memphis, St. Louis, and Detroit do have violent crime rates that are way higher than the national average. High crime areas are a persistent, serious challenge. The data doesn't hide that at all. But, and this is the crucial context, it perfectly captures the contradiction we're exploring. Take a look at Memphis, the city right at the top of that list. That same city saw a 30% drop in homicide, with its overall crime rate falling to a 25-year low. A city can have a high crime rate and be making dramatic improvements at the very same time. Both things can be true.
And Memphis isn't some outlier. The data shows that 7 of the top 10 cities on that most dangerous list have also seen significant drops in violent crime, anywhere from 10 to 30% just since 2019. So even in the places with the biggest challenges, the trend is heading in the right direction. All right, so we've looked at the national trends, we've looked at the exceptions, and we've looked at the local realities. What does this all add up to? What's the big takeaway from all of this?
You know, I think this quote from the Council on Criminal Justice itself really says it perfectly. This data isn't here to prove a political point or to tell us which policies are working and which aren't. The whole goal is just to establish a factual baseline, to simply document what the trends actually are, separate from all the noise. Which brings us right back to where we started, to that central contradiction. We've seen the data: historic drops in homicide, broad declines in most violent and property crimes, and real progress even in cities facing the biggest challenges. So we're left with this final question. If the data points so clearly in one direction, why does it so often feel like we're heading in the other? That's a